Hello and welcome back to the next One Piece review and discussion. We are here with the next chapter, and it is absolutely insane. Some of the lore and setup that is happening because the end of this arc is going to be so explosive, and a lot is going to happen very quickly, very fast. So I'm certainly super invested in what we see the Straw Hats do. So, without further ado, chapter 1182, Zaza. Now, we'll get into that name towards the end of this chapter, but the cover story is another request this time, and it is Fujitora eating a bowl of like udon or ramen that was made by a fox and a tanuki. So it's a really nice, nice cover story. But nevertheless, last we had left off, it was Loki versus Eam. It was a showdown, a clash of titans, and they were both, a lot was being thrown at each other. Eam just was taking every hit, blocking it, just didn't look phased. And we saw this incredible moment where Eam transformed the like spear or halberd weapon that he was wielding and changed it into the nemesis, the sword of judgment, to pierce Loki. So that was pretty insane. We got the idea or like the premise behind Eam's power. So the idea of a trinity being formed between corruption, the covenants or the pacts, and then Omen, that the power itself, all three combined make up domination or dominion, as it were. And that's when Eam called out to Joy Boy because he had a flashback, a brief moment where he remembered that the true bliss of this world is domination. Whether that was Eam back in the Void Century trying to convince Joy Boy of this, or someone was teaching Eam this way, we don't quite know yet the dynamic. But Eam certainly has that idea and that premise and that belief that this is the way of the world, this is how the world should be. And he screams out to Joy Boy, well, Luffy, who is currently devouring as much food as possible because he knows how bad it is out there. Like, Luffy knows how dangerous he is. And he says, we're not going to win this if I'm not at like full strength. So we see all that take place. Eam gets sent right back to the Adam Tree by a massive blast from Loki, who then transforms into the Nidhogger Dragon, his devil fruit, and sends out a blast towards Eam, and Eam has a look of recognition, and it's like, wow, you are back. And that's where we pick up. Loki is flying in the air, can still sense Eam's presence somewhere, but because he's so big and Eam is still small now in comparison, he can't quite track where he is. And Eam says, right, to think like thou we would meet again, traitor. So already the setup that the god of war, or the giant who was in possession of the Nidhogger Dragon back during the Void Century, was actually an ally of Eames, potentially. Maybe, I don't know if it could have been one of the founding 20, but certainly the dragon was used by a prior person who allied with Eam, or maybe portrayed Eam to join Joy Boy's side, which is more likely. But we see the confrontation. Eam gets his full halo again. Wings come out. And he looks out and he's like, oh, snow. Oh, that makes sense, of course. The collision of ice, the cold that like hit each other, is how lightning is born. And he says, wow, you two actually are really like well paired. Like, the synergy is exceptional. It's actually frightening. And he recognises Ragnar. And he's like, Ragnar, you are as I remember. You know, you've waited all this time for a new master. You know, how nostalgic. And we get the title card finally for Ragnar the Hammer. So it is a hammer that ate or consumed the mythical squirrel fruit Ratatoskia. So the fruit is the Ratatoskia fruit, the Norse mythological legend that is that squirrel. So the hammer, like we've seen with other weapons, has done, consumed that fruit. So we know that there's now the hammer's been around for that long because he recognises it. But there's not enough time before Ragnar fires a massive cold blast from his paws to just annihilate. Plus then Loki follows up with a big lightning breath. But it's more like bolts of arrows, I think he calls it. Fires a bunch of pellets, massive energy blasts. But Ian pulls out a new move where he summons up the Halo ring into a giant circle above him. And he says some like Aztec word followed by like eclipse. And all of those small omen, those little fire demons that we've seen before, all fire out from the massive black halo that is full of eyes and just completely collide and annihilate all the explosions before it even reaches Eve. And the landscape is just an inferno, like it is on fire. And we cut over now to Bonnie and Lilith, who are well away over in a tree branch but can see the chaos. And it's like, Bonnie, you need to go away from there. There's no way we're going up. And Bonnie's like, I'm not fighting that dude. Like, there's no way I'm going to stand against him. And Lilith is like, you know what? That you're right. It's my job to look after you because you are still just a child. But who is this guy? So Lilith is racking her brain. Now, Vegapunk's memories are still present here. All the knowledge, all the ideas. And she's like, right, he outranks the Holy Knight so much so that he's given them orders. He's not one of the five elders, but, you know, in the vast natural way of these 800 years of that have spanned this organisation, a dark shadow gives its history of power struggles. So Lilith is now getting the idea that who we are seeing is someone that sits even higher than the elders. And this is like a big reveal for everyone in this world, because other than, well, Sabo now is told the revolutionary, the five elders and some of the higher ups of the Marines, no one knows about Eames' existence. The first time that he has come down to the surface in so long is crazy. And at this point, the reason why Lilith and Bonnie were obviously here was to look after Sanji, who took a massive kick, all bloodied and bruised, looks rough, but he gets up. So Sanji is at least taking a hit from Eve and gets back up. And he's like, Bonnie, like, I can't stay here. This is not a time to back down and rest. And they're trying to like look after his injuries, but he recalls back to seeing Killingham just before, when Sanji had been kicked away by Eam. Killingham received the omen, so now has the Black Halo, has reformed into his like hybrid form, the centaur form, the human body. And he's looked and he obviously Sanji said his name, so he's like, Sanji, I guess I didn't need to deal with you after all, you know, seeming that you know, you've already been dealt with. But you know what? It's crazy. And Sanji's still in like a conscious state at this stage. And he's like, where are you possibly heading off to at this moment? And he's like, oh, well, I've got a mission to see through. So you not tell like how overwhelming my power is now. So the Holy Knights have obviously, we knew, jumped up a massive spike in power, and he rockets off. Killingham is gone, and this is like some time, like a little bit of time has passed, and Sanji's like, look, they're still planning on kidnapping the children. So that was where Summer went off to. That is now where Killingham is. Eve has still given them the order to kidnap the children. That was still the aim of this mission, to bring Elbaf into the fold, to kidnap the giant children and use them as hostages, so that maybe they can be like, the giants have to either fight, or you can't fight because the kids are held hostage. Sanji leaps off. He's like, everyone's effort will be in vain. Usopp and Luffy admire this country. So the fact that Usopp gets a name drop here, not just Luffy admires this country, the fact that Sanji will recognise and say, no, like, this is Usopp's country as well. It's how much Usopp has admired this place. For the both of them, he's like, it is our personal duty to protect this place. And also the land of beautiful ladies. But he rockets off with such noble ambitions. A brief moment is to go back to the Owl Library, where they find, Robin and Saul, that there is a back door that leads to an underground passage and a hidden room where, lo and behold, Biblo has saved every book in the library and brought it here. And Robin's so grateful. Robin is like, we had believed that all those books had been turned to ash, but no, thank you, Biblo. And Saul's like, yeah, no, super grateful, but you're now a lot more mysterious than I'd first reckoned, Biblo. Like, there's something more going on here. And Biblo just gives him a look, an ellipsis look, and doesn't say anything. Is Biblo a person? And are we going to get a reveal that Biblo is just someone who can transform into this owl or something? Because there is more here with Biblo than is being let on. And Saul's caught onto it. Saul is like, what's going on here? But we jump back now to the more pressing matter. We go back over to the Western Village, the other side, where that rainbow port is on the other side of the branch. And a huge, giant ship comes crashing down from the sky into the clouds next to the Rainbow Bridge. And it was Summer who threw it. And Summer's like, right, Killingham, the ship's ready to go. We can leave as soon as you are ready. Giant ship has been acquired, very suitable. Just get a hold of those brats. We've got at most 5 minutes. We go over into the other side of the Western Village, where the survivors of Eames' attack have rallied into a tavern. Chopper had managed to just about bandage Gerd's thumbs and finger back onto her hand, but he's like, look, that was a clean cut. We are lucky that I was able to reattach those fingers, but look, you're going to be out for a while. It's going to take months to get them to finally recover, but dude, we were lucky. And we can see Hyrun's on the floor, Stanzen's off to one side, all of them are here. And Road rushes in, he's panicked over Gerd and trying to offer his fingers, and she's like, no, I'm not arsed. But then stops and says, you know what, I do have to give you some credit though. The way you risked your life for your brother, I do have a newfound respect. So Road obviously then goes into a fit, and he's so happy about what Gerd has said to him. And we launch back over to where Goldberg and Zoro are. So they've left the village and are running towards this ship. And obviously Zoro's like, look, Goldberg, I apologise. It would have taken me ages to get to where we need to go. Not because of how small he is compared to Elbaf. He'd have probably gotten lost. But anyway, Goldberg's like, look, it's the least I can do. I'm the only giant warrior member of the new giant warrior pirates who hasn't suffered an injury. So it had to have been me to take you, which I love. I love that Goldberg is like, he's just like ready to step in for everyone. And he's like, look, besides, this is a crisis of Elbath. For you, we are lucky that we have you to fight alongside. Like, you don't have to do this. And Zara's like, honestly, it's no problem at all. Like, any friend of, Luffy is considered like a friend country, is also like our country. So our captain's motto is like, my friend's country is my country. So of course we're gonna step in and help out. And Goldberg's like, wow, no wonder Hyrule like pledged himself to this guy, like how it is. But Zoro's sat there and it's given him time to think, because obviously Goldberg's running and he's sat on his shoulder. So Zoro can think, and he's like, look, we need to figure out what's up with those black flames, because they actually turned into steel bullets and explosions, and those other knights seem to have been powered up by the same flames. So Zoro has got hold of like explosive ammunition. So clearly, what Ian was throwing out wasn't just black flames, but there was a physical object within the flame to cause the explosion and like steel bullets. So Eam has a lot of like future tech stored in an arsenal. So it's not just like the swords and the weapons he can summon. The idea that those black flames are bullets and like explosives from like obviously before everything collapsed and like the whole world was sunk to the sea. He has access to still of all those weaponry. So of course he's going to use bullets and explosions as like means of attacks. And Zoro's like, look, this is going to get ugly if it's not wrapped up quickly. Like, if we draw this out, it's really bad. And this next part is insane. Summer is obviously talking with Killingham. And Killingham reaches out and says, Summer, I've messed up. I've gone too far. You see, with this increased power we now have, I've summoned something insane. And he's like, Killingham, do not tell me you've just... And he's like, yeah, I'm afraid so. I've accidentally summoned what I'm scared of. I got carried away. The power was too great. And someone's like, you idiot. Like, do you know how terrifying that thing is going to be? Like, tell me you can at least control it. And he's like, well, it's a dream. So probably, like, it's that dream demon's the things you can summon. So theoretically I should be able to, but I saw it, but it's gonna be frightening to try. And he's like, look, what's done is done, carry on, we've got a mission, where's Gunko at? And Killingham goes, oh, I think she's dead. And Summer's like, what? And then they gloss over this, like, well, whatever. So when Eam fired at the block of ice to blow it up, what we thought was it was freeing Gunko. No, he was annihilating Gunko, like a loose thread. Is it because Eam was onto the fact of this connection between Brook and Gunko? Who knows at this stage, but we know there's going to be a panel coming soon where obviously Brook was near the ice with Usopp and the others. He'll get up, he'll run, find Gunko's body. Gunko will be around the Straw Hats. But clearly Gunko has now been abandoned by Eam because Killingham believes she looks dead. But the mission still stands. They still have a point to prove because Summer lets slip that the Great One, Eam's body, isn't meant to be out in this world. So obviously we saw it happen at the very start when Eam first transported here, but Eam's body can't last here. There was a time limit. So Eam is just basically being a distraction for the big heavy hitters so that these two can do their job, which is frightening. But it's like, look, Our key force now, we have to just erase what we can, get what we need from the kidnapping of the children, and get out. We must not disappoint Eve anymore. Cool, right, don't have to explain to me. Let's go. The village then gets a massive downpour, and I mean, people are like, where the hell has this rain come from? Like, it's raining cats and dogs. What's going on? It's gonna start flooding. Like, this is such a heavy downpour. And above the clouds, Killingham shouts, grab a hold of all those brats. And a massive watered hand grabs all of like 5 or 6 kids, it looks like, pulls them out of the house, brings them up, and Killingham explains, for those who are born above the clouds, the idea of water falling on your head was terrifying. What a cool concept of like something to be scared of. When you live above the clouds, rain frightens you. And they were told stories of the D-clan of Nika, but of a monster known as the Rain God. The one who pelt the lower realms with water from overhead. So we know of the Rain God. We've got referenced in Skype here. We had the Sun God, the Forest, the God of the Land, and obviously the God of the Rain. The 4 gods. We know Luffy now embodies the Sun God. This is the first time the Sun God, the Rain God, has been referenced. And we see, final double page spread, a beautiful depiction of a giant, and I mean ancient giant, probably even bigger, giant-sized woman. Full veil, head covered, multiple arms, lording over the entire western village, absolutely pelting it, flooding the place, causing all this carnage with rain. What Killingham is scared of most? The Rain God, Zaza, the Dream Demon. So it appears with the rhythm of the rain. It is frightening. It is this giant woman. Like, it can't be accurately described how big this like Rain God is above the other houses and the other giants. Like, they're all being submerged in water. It is that much. And like, Killingham's like, right, Summer, I'm heading over to you with the kids. We've got like, I think it looks like 4 now in hand. Might grab some more. But what we see is Sanji and Zoro rushing ahead. Sanji heading for Killingham, Zoro heading for Summer. And they are like, we have to do this. It looks bad. We've got to do this. Don't screw up. Sanji fires it right back at him. That is where the chapter concludes. There is another break, but my God, what we are getting here is actually insane. Like, the Rain God has now appeared, and the One Piece community already is actually insane because people have already spotted. So Zaza is the onomatopoeia for like rainfall in like Japanese kanji. But the onomatopoeia that appears on the page is the same that accompanies Dragon when we first see him in Logtown, when there's that heavy rainpour. So obviously the connection now is Dragon has the Rain God fruit, which is insane to think that that could be the case. So no wonder they are going to be afraid of Dragon, who's in possession of the Rain God fruit. But this isn't crazy to see, like, how destructive this god can be. Wow. Gonna be such a cool, like, final confrontation now that we've got Sanji and Zoro facing off with Summer and Killingham. Luffy's about to step into the ring with E, I assume. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be so good. But thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Let me know what you thought of this chapter, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.